Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today we want to give you an overview of the new functionality introduced with the latest version 24.06 of RapidAuthor. Similar to our last webinar, we'd like to follow the journey an author takes while creating technical documents. So your workflow typically starts with preparing the data and your tools. Then we move to authoring itself, split into general authoring improvements first, and then 2D related features. And afterwards, we go to the publishing and viewing of your created content and related features. Let's start with preparation, specifically with data import. In 24.06, we have implemented a couple of improvements to the way you work with DPL tables. Based on customer requests, it is now possible to update the DPL table of your IPC from an external Excel file like this one. Depending on metadata and settings, the data can be copied to the existing DPL rows, or new DPL rows will be added. We have an example project prepared here and want to make use of this new feature. First, we select the Excel file and perform the import. That's going to be quick. And as you can see, the additional information from the Excel file has been imported to the DPL table. By the way, for more information on this feature and on many others, you can use the new context help. In this case, it will take you to the documentation of the Rapid Generator Excel plugin, where you can get help relevant to what you were currently doing. I will get back to that context help again later. Now, often available metadata are not enough to arrange and merge your DPL rows. Previously, you could calculate new metadata using regular expressions, but merging DPL rows was only possible when metadata already existed in the source file. With 24.06, you can calculate metadata using regular expressions and then merge DPL rows as needed. Let's illustrate this with an example. In the middle right, you can see the current DPL table, and it has only one row for the 6 wheels of the truck. Let's first add a new custom metadata. We'll call it location. Then we add a new regular expression for left and right. And based on this regular expression, our parts will be matched to the locations right or left, allowing us to separate the 6 wheels into 2 different groups depending on their location. If we now merge DPL rows based on metadata and select part number and location, we will get 2 rows for the wheels, one with 3 wheels from the left side of the truck and one with 3 wheels from the right, just as an easy example. In the metadata on the bottom right, you can see the location we have defined earlier. .24.06 now also supports the import of geometry in the XTB-rep format through RapidJT component if you're using that module. This was previously only available in Rapid Data Converter. One of the effects is that we can now read surface control lines from JT. The surface quality of the geometry depends on your setting in the import profile. You can see an example of the difference in this illustration. In the middle, we see the results of an import with RapidJT component in the previous version of RapidAuthor. And on the right, you can see the much improved results with 24.06, which is now very similar to the quality we get with Rapid Data Converter. We have also made it much more convenient to configure Bob viewpoints. The way we do this now is that you can select from a predefined list. I hope that's visible on the screenshot. You can set it to camera or go to a defined camera. And as in most releases, we follow industry trends regarding CAD data and have added support for additional CAD data file formats. For a complete list of supported formats, as always, please see our full release notes. Of course, there's more. Just as a couple of selected smaller features to give you an idea that we implemented based on feedback from our customers. We now provide protection of PMI objects from section planes imported from JT model views. And you can use, if you use RapidJT component, you can now import all types of PMI supported by JT Open Toolkit version 11.5. In our second section today, we'll first discuss general authoring improvements, and then we'll look at 2D specific features. Let's start with one of our focus areas for 24/6, performance. Performance is always a priority for us, and we will do smaller or bigger changes in pretty much every release. Sometimes this happens in the background, but this time it's definitely worth a mention. Loading, saving, and publishing projects, as well as operations on a large number of items, will now take significantly less time than before. It will, of course, depend on your project, so we are a bit careful in sharing our internal testing results. But without cherry-picking a project, to give you an example, our tests with the generic IPC specification showed a roughly halved project opening time. And in another sample, the publishing was 3 to 5 times faster compared to the previous version. Again, your results may and will vary, but many of you will see quite a significant improvement and a much smoother workflow. And we are very interested in your feedback. What improved, what hasn't on your end, feel free to let us know. Now, let's have a look at a couple of selected features for general authoring. First, section planes. To give an introduction, section planes are widely used to demonstrate the internal structure of your model, as you can see in the preview of the video. However, in many cases, you will want to protect some parts from sectioning. Previously, you had to use a special item for this purpose. This worked, but it resulted in changes in the item tree hierarchy and complications in data updates. To allow for a much easier handling of the situation, you can now easily add a flag to each item or assembly for protection. The result is the same, the item is protected, but there are no more changes in the model hierarchy. The protection is represented in the item tree with a small shield icon. And we also provide a convenient switch to remove the protection from the whole selected assembly. Like this. Next, we have improvements for the linking of catalog pages. Linking pages is an essential part of IPC authoring, and up until now, the author had to use the item number of the target page. That works, but it's not especially convenient. In 24/6, you can now link from the DPL table to a page by selecting the target from a list of available pages. We've marked this in red on the screenshot. This drop-down list is generated automatically for you and is sorted in alphabetical order. This feature is available in the generic IPC specification component, and we hope it makes the linking process much quicker and easier for you. In previous versions of RapidAuthor, only the headlight was used to set the lighting for your 3D scene while authoring. That works well in most cases, but it resulted in some 3D models looking too light or even flat. With 2406, both the author and the end user can now select the best suited combination of light sources for an optimal appearance of the 3D model. We have added 6 new lighting schemes, and we indicate the locations in a small pictogram to make it easier for you to quickly recognize the differences. All light sources, by the way, are directed towards the center of your 3D scene. Now, the author can define the standard lighting scheme for the publication in the Publish options. Let's have a look at the publication. Here you can see the previously selected lighting for the publication. In addition to that selected scheme the author had chosen, the lighting can also be changed on the fly in the publication by the end user. By the way, we have already updated some of the publications on our demo page. So if you want to have a look yourself and play around with the new lighting schemes, please visit demo.cortona3d.com. The updated demos include our motorcycle and the pump you will probably know, amongst others. 2406 also brings quite a few updates specifically for S1000D authors. That has been one of our other focus areas for authoring. Let's go through a couple of examples. First, if the user wants to display image, video, or audio as inline entity in the document window rather than in a separate window, this is now possible through a setting for the multimedia object element. And you can now also display 2 images or other media at once in our interactive 3D publications. That is how that can look like. There's quite a few very interesting use cases in the pipeline that will be based on this small feature, and we'll have more information about that coming soon. With this release, Rapid Text now also supports the schedule schema in S1000D. This schema is used to capture and represent maintenance planning information in data modules such as maintenance task lists, time limits, maintenance allocation, and other information like that. After authoring, the output is provided in the form of a table, like you can see here. Next, we have a new UI for HTML publications that allow the user to navigate within fault isolation procedures. What this allows you to do is select from specific options or outcomes for each step of your procedure. And to wrap up this section, here's a short, quite long actually, overview of a couple of additional improvements to the 3D authoring process. We have many more small features for you. So for example, control authority information is now displayed in HTML and PDF publications in accordance with S1000D 5.0 requirements. Next, hotspots of graphic objects can now contain references to other objects. And we also allow for applicability filtering of S1000D IPC data modules in the scope of publication module. And in addition to other types of data modules, the S1000D IPD data modules can also be filtered by product now when publishing. You can also set the precise duration of a procedure, not only via the existing slider that you might have used in the past, but you can now also set the exact value directly. That might be useful. As you might know, you can already automatically reverse the order of elements in DITA and S1000D documents to create assembly instructions from disassembly instructions and vice versa. We have improved this process and now not only reverse the 3D animation steps, but we also automate the reversal of the corresponding entries in your documents if you have used this functionality in the past. And we have further improvements to this feature already planned. And finally, as you have already seen in one of the videos earlier, Context Help can now be launched from all application windows for faster access to the required information. After this overview of general authoring changes, let's have a look at what's new for 2D. For all the new features, we worked in close contact with our customers. In 2406, you can generate 2D images in RapidAuthor in model coordinates so that 2D images can be easily combined with each other in 2D Editor Pro without manual scaling and laborious positioning. Such images should be created in orthographic projection with the same camera orientation. We'll demonstrate this process on a simple model. First, we select the new option, Fixed Scale and Origin for Orthographic Projection. And now we generate 3 images from 3 different IPC pages and plan to merge them in 2D Editor Pro. Let's copy the images over we have prepared. Now we can see that all images have the same scale in comparison with the real size of the 3D model. And we can combine them by specifying the same origin directly in the property inspector. We just copy that over. And they will overlap perfectly. And we can also easily change the scale for all images at once. The next feature is about parallel paths. Let me start the video. You can create a parallel path and edit it easily with your mouse, in addition to previously supported parametric creation. This simplifies the drawing of complex cable paths. So first we draw the trajectory, difficult word, and now we will add parallel paths to it. Now you can quickly modify the distance between these paths with your mouse. As a last step for this example, we remove unnecessary lines. And your cable is ready. Now, if you need to edit ellipse segments, you can now do that independently, but still keep them as a single ellipse object for further modification. Now, what does that mean? Previously, ellipses were split into independent pieces after removing a segment. Makes sense, right? If I remove part of an ellipse, it's not an ellipse anymore. Well, yes, but that makes it quite difficult to work with the resulting object. We have a solution for that now. This example shows a simple case where an ellipse is partially overlapped by another object, removing part of the original ellipse. Let's cut that piece. So if we remove the ellipse, if we move the ellipse now, you can see that it is still one object, even though it contains 2 segments. The same editing options are available for every segment of the ellipse. And you can still change properties of the ellipse, such as color, line width, etc. Now let's have a look at a slightly more complicated example, where the original ellipse is split and overlaid in different places. After cutting these segments, you can see in the top right that we now have 4 different segments overall. Instead of deleting the segment, we will this time change the style of the line. Achieving this result, or similar results, would have been relatively complex before, and now it should be easy and straightforward. And if you use magnifiers in your 2D images, we now have new predefined shapes ready for you. In addition to the previously supported circle shape, you can now also choose a square or a rectangular shape with square or rounded corners. You can see the new supported shapes on the screenshot here. You can even use a magnifier pointer in tail form, which is widely used in illustrations. Of course, you can always change its location, curvature, and thickness, etc., as you were used to. Now, as another small part of our performance improvements, the resolution of raster images is now reduced on the fly during zooming and similar manipulations. You will very likely not notice this change, only the effect on performance, as this helps significantly with excessive CPU and memory consumption, and it will enable faster authoring. Play around with it in 24/6 and please let us know if you feel the difference or if you have any feedback for us. And we are also working on further development of our raster editor. So the lasso tool is now available with polygonal and freeform selection highlighted in bright blue here. Now let's look at a couple of publication features. We will start with catalogs. In 24/6, parts catalogs created with the generic IPC specification now support filtering DPL tables by applicability. To show you, we will first complete a new applicability table, just with sample values. And then you can populate the applies to column of the DPL table with appropriate values. You can also specify the legend that will be displayed below the DPL table in the publication. We'll see that in a second. The resulting publication, as you can see, contains a drop-down box with the available applicable to entries, and the DPL table itself will show a new applies to column. Now, when you have a large parts catalog with lots of pages and lots of identical parts used in various assemblies, it is usually important to know how many identical objects are used in a particular assembly or subassembly. To help with this, we have created a new publish option. This will automatically calculate the quantity of visible objects linked to the DPL row of a particular IPC page. As you can see, hopefully, in the screenshot, the model shown on the left has two groups of pretty much identical washes. The difference is quite difficult for us to see, but the DPL table counts them correctly. That's the highlighted line showing the two washes. And that's it for a quick overview of new functionality we have in our 24.06 release. As always, this was just a selection of features, and we have many more small changes and improvements ready for you. For the full list, please see the release notes and play around with some of the functionality as mentioned on our demo page, demo.cortona3d.com. And now let's have a look at your questions. Let me move the Q&A part here so you can see the questions. As I believe I mentioned last time, I have a couple of improvement ideas for Microsoft here. So the first question we can see is, does protection from section planes work only for the current page of an RPC or for all of them? By the way, just so you know, first, Teams has a bit of a delay between posting the question and us actually seeing, or you actually seeing them. I don't think we can adjust that. And second, in case we don't get to all of your questions today, we will contact you afterwards. You can always contact us on support@cortona3d.com via email or via our webpage. We will certainly get to all of your questions. Let's see if we already have an answer for the first question. That's a newer one. Can applicability values be mapped from the source in generic IPC from Teams and the variant attributes? And in response, as you can see, applicability is a DPL row metadata. So yes, this is possible. It can be configured via the import profile. And to the first question, does protection from section planes work only for the current page of an IPC or for all of them? Protection can be set on each page individually. And we have a third question here. Is it possible to remove protection from a section plane for a specific step of the procedure? Now it informed me about the new comment. So in response to that question, if you need to change protection from the procedure, you have to use the section shield object. We showed that briefly, but if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. By the way, in terms of follow-up questions in this Teams Q&A section, I'm not sure if it's possible to post comments to one of your questions. If you have any important follow-up questions, just post it as a new question, or get back to us on the support channels. I think the idea here is that there are no complicated threads in the Q&A section, but it is a bit limiting. Let's see if there's any more. Yes. Can the cables created in Cortona Editor Pro be applicable in Rapid Manual also? I just wait for a brief discussion in the team if they have anything to add to that. Very good. More questions. Don't hesitate to post any questions that come up. And if you're like me, as soon as the webinar ends, you might have additional questions. As I mentioned earlier, just contact us via the support email and we will get back to you. Regarding the question about the cables from Cortona3D Editor Pro, Rapid Manual is used to create 3D animations, but you can attach 2D images created in 2D Editor Pro to the XML document with the procedure description. So we use 2D Editor Pro as a supporting tool for all our main product components, and you create 2D images. You can use them in Rapid Manual procedures, of course, but not in 3D. And the latest question was, is it possible to specify several links to pages from one DPL row? I did not know that. It is possible. You can use the info column to create multiple links with titles. Let us know if this is something you try out and it doesn't work as expected, and we can show you an example. I think we had that, yes. Just trying to make sure that we don't miss a question or a comment. Any other questions? Do we have more questions coming in, team?
Not yet.
Very good. We still have plenty of time, but I'm very happy to give you back some time in the morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you connect from. But don't hesitate to post any questions you might have. I'd say let's give everyone a minute or two and check if there's any questions that only pop up now. I think that might be it for now. Very good. If the team cannot see any additional questions that haven't shown up for me yet, I'd say we can close the session a bit earlier and give you back some time. As mentioned, if while playing around with our demos or with the new version 24.06, any other questions pop up, feel free to contact us directly and we'll see what we can do. Very good. Then I'd say we can wrap this up for today. Give us feedback. We are always basing on our prioritization for the next releases on your feedback. Let us know what works well, what doesn't. If you have any questions, reach out and we will help. Then everyone, thank you for your participation and interest in the new version, and have a great rest of your day and week. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.